we have a constitutional question here. We have a constitutional crisis about when you get these. Everyone's subject to them. You get these rights from your creator, right? When do you get to exercise those? The minute you're born would seem like a logical place to start, maybe, or when life begins.
And the hard point with that, right? One of the things that I run into is if it is that point, right, when you're born, a baby can't choose for itself, can't make any decision, can't even feed itself, right?
Especially 18-year-olds can barely think for themselves.
Especially in the womb, if the mother does not eat, the baby will not eat after it's taken all of the nourishment it can from the mom, right? Yeah. But like in very vague terms, if the mother does not eat, the baby will not eat. It cannot make decisions for itself.
Heartbeat to 18 years of age.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I don't know. And I would never tell anybody that they're wrong because I don't know that they know either. I'm not saying that I know because I don't know. But that's when someone asks me to form an opinion on abortion. That's a question where I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Flip the tables for me.
Flip the tables on you as a parent.
Yes.
Because I can't play that game.
Yes.
Probably need to divorce ourselves a little bit from like the prenatal before birth portion, right? Like, when does Dax get his rights? Or does he have rights that you protect because you are his guardian?
Am I actively infringing on his rights by not giving him more freedom? And
it's a philosophical question.
And I'm not sure what a little bit facetious, right? You know what I'm saying? But if it was up to him, like, he'd be eating fucking French fries for a meal and shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
Should he, as a child, have the freedom?
Kids want to eat pizza every day.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know things like that. Like, that's so. That's what I'm saying. And again, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to make light of anything. I don't know what the rights of the unborn are, or what they should be, or whose rights should supersede whose, because I have a really hard time feeling comfortable telling that mother, we've decided as a country even that your rights in the Constitution start at 20 weeks. But in some states you can have an abortion after that, at least for now, so then telling her that until this time, even if you decide you don't, let's call it first trimester because more people are generally comfortable with that like stage of abortion, right? Yeah. So we're going to say that the 6 weeks, we'll call it that, right? Because that's what the number is. We're going to say we've decided as a country, science, everything, that at 6 weeks when you have a heartbeat, you are born and you're entitled to these rights. I have a really hard time feeling comfortable telling that mother, well, you've decided or found out at 8 weeks that you're pregnant and you don't want to have this baby. You now are going to carry it for the next 32 weeks until it's born, and then we'll find another home for it, and while it can have rights. I'm very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, because it's almost like at that point you're suspending someone else's rights for someone else.
Having seen the process of pregnancy, it's not easy. I didn't do it. It doesn't look very simple. It doesn't look fun. I don't want to do it. I'm glad that I don't.
It looks really unenjoyable.
So the idea that we would then, to use Stephen Crowder's terms, would then force that woman to carry that baby after she doesn't want it, right? I have a really hard time with that, whether it's for rape or incest or whatever. Like, I have a hard time telling you that you have to do that because this baby has rights that you're not allowed to deny or infringe upon. Like,
but that means you have to have your own rights.
That's a fucking dangerous game to play, Yeah. And I feel that that's a totally fair question to be asking, and I feel like if that were the question being explored more instead of why do you want to control my body or why do you want to murder babies, then we would have seen more progression on this issue over the last 2 decades, instead of
everybody wasn't
division.
If everybody wasn't being so disingenuous about both the extreme arguments, we might actually have a productive conversation.
Yeah, because we've talked about this before. The idea that everybody who wants to have an abortion wants to murder babies is stupid. The idea that everybody who doesn't want abortions to be legal wants to control women's bodies is also stupid. Yeah. Neither of those two things make sense.
Will makes a really good point here. He says, not being a parent and being mostly pro-life,
Yes.
it's a very delicate, slippery slope.
Yes.
And I think that really gets down to the foundation of the problem, and which is kind of why I end up in the position that I kind of, like I talked about my elevator pitch. My position more or less on abortion is I have my own personal thoughts about it.
Yes.
But that's going to be between me and whoever my partner is at that point, me and the wife. We are going to have a conversation. We're going to come up with what we feel like we want to do or not do or whatever the fuck it is. And I don't think it should be anybody else's input. I don't want anybody else's input.
Right.
It is just
Especially
it's a
the
personal
government
decision. And the government shouldn't be involved
Yeah.
at all. There should not be a fucking law in the books about abortion, period.
That's a tilt
If
that
you don't like abortion, you talked earlier about like men don't get pregnant, right?
Right.
And let's just put that out on this podcast. Men do not get pregnant, period, full fucking
Yes.
stop.
I will put my name behind that.
If AOC is going to bring up fucking biology and then start talking about birthing persons and menstruating persons, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Men do not get pregnant, period, full stop. If men got pregnant, you better goddamn believe there'd be more abortion clinics than there are fucking Starbucks.
Yes.
All right? Which is why it's not up to any person to decide what is right for everybody. We all have individual rights, and we all have individual choices to make throughout life. It is none of my goddamn business whether you get an abortion or not. I may disagree with your choice to get an abortion or not, but it is not my business to tell you
Right.
what to do. It is certainly not the goddamn government's business to tell you what to fucking do. If you don't like it, if the society as a whole in the state of Texas decides it's not something they support, I don't like to use the term all the time because it's so misused, but like the free market will make it either more difficult or easier to access those services
Right.
in specific areas of life. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with people forming societies and living life the way they choose based off of a few basic rules that we all should follow.
Right. Right.
And then if Crowder doesn't know, if Steven Crowder doesn't know that abortions are taking place every day, why would he have an issue on it? He can have a personal stance on like, well, this isn't going to happen in our relationships. Okay, that's up between you and your partner to figure out. But it is not up to anyone else. Nobody else has a fucking say in whatever it is that you do with your body.
Right.
And if he was even semi-consistent logically, he would carry that through because that's the exact argument he makes about the vaccine mandates
Yes.
and everything else.
Yeah, and
you would carry that through and say, I personally am pro-life. I believe that abortion is murder. But I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Right.
Just don't tell me about it. I don't want to fund it with taxpayer money, which I think is probably a good idea because the less government we all have in our lives, the better. But obviously there's nuance and things to do about that. But it is not my body.
Yeah.
It's not my choice, man.
No, and I think that you're right. The consistent argument behind it would be behind the healthcare section, right? Would be that the free market, like you said, will dictate that, and that if there is a demand for late-term abortions, that a majority or a certain percentage of people support, then those people should be putting their money behind that and donating to those causes so that those things can be achieved.
Yeah. Instead
Which
of
is
donating
not-
to your
Yeah.
bullshit fucking politician that's trying to get populist support and all this shit and grassroots donations,
Right.
maybe they should start a foundation that provides money to these services
Right.
that they stand behind ideologically. That would be great. Private money going to private things.
We were talking about that last night, Jordan and I told her, I said, I don't necessarily disagree with that, because I think that that's kind of consistent. That people should be, if they don't want to be taxed on things, they should be putting their money towards those things so that the government doesn't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? But that's also not really how the country is set up right now. They just kind of take your money and appropriate it shit, right?
Yeah.
But I also am not, because I support people getting medical care that need it, I'm also not totally in favor of that, because that complete free market aspect of it tends to leave out those people who don't have the money to pay
Yeah.
for the private sector
Because
insurance.
if
But-
you follow the logic out at that point,
Right.
there will be states that you cannot
Right.
get an abortion in. That will be the way it ends up. And ideally, if you're not comfortable with that, you won't live there. But
Right.
we all know, especially in this time where I wish I could live in any other state but here, because this is fucking ridiculous. But
It's just
it
not
ain't
that easy.
that easy, man.
Yeah.
It's why we have problems with like the arguments. Well, you don't like it here, why don't you move? Or if you don't like this, just move to Florida, just move to Tennessee. Or yeah, sure, man, that sounds great. I have a house, I have a job, I have friends, I have family. It's not that simple to just pick up and leave, or just quit your job and go somewhere else. Okay, it might have been easier back in the 40s.
Right.
When in the 20s, when people literally moved across country to take another job. Hell, man, the market's so goddamn bad. I'm trying to hire people and convince them to move across the country to come work for me. That's how bad things go. But it's not that simple, man. You just can't throw money at it and make it go away.
Yeah.
It's if you grew up your whole life here, right, and you love the state of Washington. I love the state of Washington. I love the fact that within 4 hours, I could be in the rainforest up in the Olympics. I could be down on a beach in southeast Washington. I could be on the Columbia River down in farm country. I could be over in the high desert country. I can have whatever. I could be up in the mountains. I could be out in the ocean. I could have whatever I want. It's a great, great environmental place to live. I wouldn't want to really be anywhere else. I got everything I want here. Because of the political situation, I have to debate whether or not I'm willing to sacrifice all that and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a false choice. You're being kicked out of a place you don't want to leave because the majority rules, and now it ain't so friendly
Your
anymore.
ideology is not welcome.
It's just not. It's not a cut and dry easy answer for people to just be like, well, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It never is. And same with abortion. You live in Texas, born and raised in Texas, you're third generation Texan. Now that all of a sudden there's an abortion ban in place, you're just supposed to be like, well, I don't agree with this. I'm packing up stakes and leaving. Like, it's never that simple.
Yeah.
And the idea that people try to say that that's all you need to do. It's just, we'll go somewhere else. The states' rights, they get to do whatever you want, but you're uprooting a lot of lives. I mean, there's so many different. The roots of the argument go so deep into everybody's fundamental existence in life. It's exactly why I'm more of a just do what you want to do, man.
Right.
What you want to do, keep the government out of it. But yeah, at the same time, maybe there should be some form of. Yeah, like I don't want to remove the facility.
Right.
I don't want to remove people the option, because
Well,
now you're
yeah.
removing somebody's right to make a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice anymore.
And like you said, the conversations around it are so disingenuous,
Yeah.
that it's difficult to. I think you're one of Haley, Jordan, there's a small handful of people I've had a genuine discussion about abortion on, like, what do we do? Because I don't know.
Yeah. And I bet it generally ends up at the same place where, like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. And until, like many things, until that conversation becomes more genuine and based in reality, it's going to be very difficult to move forward on that.
Wow. There's a bombshell that he
Let's
didn't even
hear
know he
it.
dropped.
Let's hear it.
I'm born and raised in northern Florida. I've been here since 2002. I love the nature of this state. I may be heading back to Florida. Which, again, definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense.